welcome back to China Through Singlasses. I'm Jingnan.
And I'm Wu Fan.
We hope you had a wonderful Chinese New Year or a restful long weekend. As we mentioned in our previous episode, Chinese New Year is actually a 15-day long affair from the first day of the new year to the 15th of that first month.
And the 15th day of the Lunar New Year is coming up soon, so we'll be celebrating Yuan Xiao Jie on Sunday. And Yuan Xiao Jie is actually the first full moon of the new year. So according to the Chinese calendar, the 15th of every month is when the moon is at its fullest. So for Yuan Xiao Jie, it usually falls on February or March of the Gregorian calendar. The reason why it's called Yuan Xiao Jie is because the first month of the Chinese calendar is also called Yuan Yue, and Xiao is the ancient Chinese way of saying the night.
So Yuan Xiao would be the first full moon kind of idea. So it's translated to Lantern Festival, which is a very bad translation because yes, lanterns are part of the festival, but it's not the entirety of it.
Yeah.
It's like translating 中秋节 to Mooncake Festival. Yes, people eat mooncakes, but that's not the entirety
and
of it.
端午节 to like rice dumpling festival. That's my general gripe about like translating festival names. It just doesn't
Just translations
capture...
in general.
Yeah.
It doesn't capture the complexities and all of it. So yeah, in the previous episode, we only covered what was the most exciting for us personally in terms of Chinese New Year, which was the food and the television or the CCTV Spring Gala. But there's actually a lot more to Chinese New Year festival and celebrations, both in China and in Singapore. So now that the most important few days of Chinese New Year is technically over, aka the first few days, let's talk about some interesting things like how much money do you get for how much money do you get for Chinese New Year this year in terms of angbaos? Angbaos is like the Hokkien for red packet.
hongbao. Yeah. So for us, usually people would go to 拜年 and go to their relatives' houses. But for my family, what we do is my relatives transfer money to my parents through the bank or something. Then my parents give me my relatives' angbaos. Yeah, through them. Yeah, so usually it will come in the form of a red packet stuffed under my pillow because I don't wake up early the next day. I feel some movement under my pillow, then I just sleep through.
So cute.
What about you?
I haven't usually my mom is the only one who gives me a physical red packet in terms of like actual hard cash. But this year she just transferred me money through PayLah.
Oh, we love that.
And all my relatives gave me. I don't have a lot of relatives that still give me red packet money.
Okay.
But those that did, they tried to give it to me directly on WeChat. And this year, WeChat actually has a new policy that foreigners are not allowed to receive money on. Okay, so WeChat is the ultimate Chinese social media. It is like everything all in one.
Yeah.
It includes the
Facebook
profile page,
the WhatsApp texting groups,
WhatsApp groups, and as well as like the PayLah. Just imagine all of that all together. You can even use WeChat Pay. You can even shop on WeChat. So anyway, so they actually give me they try to transfer money on WeChat and through the conversations and ask me to receive the red packets, but I had to explain to them that I literally can't do it because of government policy. So they will transfer money to my mom like via bank. And then my mom will... It's a very complicated process.
Yeah, truly. Yeah. Oh yeah, but for me this year, I didn't actually get a lot of money from my parents because they bought me gifts instead, which to me makes a lot of sense lah. Yeah, so one of the gifts
What gifts do you get?
One of it is actually this bottle. So right, what happened was, I love this thermal flask because it's the kind of blue I like and it has a polar bear on it. But right, what happened was one day I just stupidly swung my bag open and the bottle fell onto the floor and like there's a humongous chip on top. So my mom was asking me, what do you want? And then I just like, can you give me another thermal flask? Yeah. Then my mom got me some facial cleansing products. Then this sounds like a weird flex. My dad got me a new phone because my current phone is dying.
That's good.
Yeah, so it's like very useful stuff.
Utilitarian items.
Yeah.
So do you get anything for Christmas? No, they don't.
Yeah, we don't celebrate Christmas.
Yeah.
In fact, most of the time Christmas is I give them stuff. Yeah. Oh yeah, then I bought myself a present because it's our zodiac year and we're both rabbits, so I got myself rabbit themed hanfu. Yeah, and it's a Ming Dynasty pattern. A key element of Ming Dynasty costume is ma mian qun, which is
it's a skirt.
It's a skirt with a lot of
pleats.
A lot of pleats. Yeah, so that you maximize movement and you can actually like ride horses and stuff with it.
Yeah, we will go into much more detail about hanfu and the different styles and designs of hanfu in that episode. But yeah, I saw it on your YouTube channel.
Oh, yeah,
it was really cute.
Thank you. Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
it looked very warm.
Oh, it is. It actually has a lot more other elements to it.
It has a lot of layers.
It has like
right?
winter. It actually has like a winter cape because it's winter in China now. So if I buy stuff from Taobao, it will just give me winter handful.
Yeah.
But I wore like half of it, and it was already kind of hot. Yeah. I also made my eyes bear wear like rabbit ears. We talk a lot about like using online transmission of cash, but in Singapore there are still lots of people who will queue up in front of banks to get the new cash because the serial number will be all in order.
And it just feels nicer to give someone fresh, clean, crisp notes as compared to like old, crumpled, dirty, disgusting cash. Cash is so dirty, but yeah.
It is.
Yeah, especially before PayLah came out. PayLah is this digital banking kind of transaction app. By DBS. Before PayLah was popularized, like it would genuinely be a very common sight to see, even today, but less so today, for people to line up for hours in front of banks before Chinese New Year to collect fresh notes. And it's kind of funny, but essentially people would ask to get $2 notes. So they would actually, let's say they withdraw $500. They could have totally withdrawn $50 notes, or like, in $10 notes. But because it's easier for people to give $2 notes in terms of red packets, and at the same time, even if people gave like a large sum red packet, so let's say $100, they like to actually give it to people in $2 notes because it feels thicker.
Oh, I have never experienced that.
Yeah,
what the heck?
Yeah, my mom used to do that. Like, she would give me a very thick red packet and it would be completely stuffed with $2
notes. Did she do
notes.
that because back then you were a kid, so it's easier for you to spend $2? Or
no,
it
was for the thickness.
Wow!
I think it's so funny. Of course, not everybody does it, but I think it's kind of funny.
The power of packaging,
No, it's just like, because people would, the inside joke for a lot of people during Chinese New Year is the first thing you do when you receive a red packet, because it's impolite and actually very rude to open a red packet in front of the person who gave it to you. It's like opening a gift in front of somebody who gave it to you, but they didn't want you to open it. So it's very rude to open a red packet in front of them. So what people do is they like feel for the thickness to guesstimate how much money they receive.
Oh my god!
But I just think it's so funny. Yeah. Anyway, that's one interesting aspect of receiving cash in red packets.
There's another thing about red packets is quite funny because like when you're a kid, your parents will keep the red packets.
Yeah.
And then there's this joke called 把钱给妈妈，妈妈帮你花掉.
No, they will always say, the adults in your life will always tell you, come, give me your red packet money I help you save it in your bank account, or I help you save it in my bank account, I help you save it for your college funds or whatever, and the money always goes disappearing.
And the thing is, you might not have opened it before giving it to your parents, so you never know how much money
you never know.
Yeah. Oh, another thing in Singapore is like a lot of companies, they will give out their own angbao.
Yeah.
So I remember I really like the POSB angbao because POSB has a kids account and it has a very cute squirrel.
Yeah, the mascot is a squirrel.
And also, when you buy tissue paper,
when you buy anything, I was at NTUC. No, I was not just at NTUC. I was at Yomi. I was at a bubble tea shop, and they said, "Do you want to like buy 2 cups? Because if you buy 2 cups, we give you an angbao, like a piece of angbao." And I was like, no, I don't need it. But
it's just tissue paper lor.
It's so there's just people just give out red packets, and I like the red packets that are not specific to that year because then I can use it for following years.
You can wait for 12 years, ma.
God.
Just live long enough. We get it.
Yeah, so there's a lot of intricacies and kind of funny things that happen when you give out physical red packets. But I think nowadays there's a lot more transaction going on, especially when for us, like, we can't go physically visiting because our family is all in China.
Yeah.
So I mean, the pros and cons of technology, you lose out on the funds of like the physical tactile aspect of the red packets, but you also get much more convenience when people just transfer you money, and also like it's more environmentally friendly, I guess. Yeah.
Oh wait, on that note, right, actually one of my friends, she sent all of us 88 cents on PayLah.
Oh my god!
But that's so cute leh. Honestly, that was very cute.
I would go as far as to send just 8 cents. like as many decimal points as possible.
Actually that's another aspect of red packets. You usually give people money in even numbers. In the very least, it's even numbers, and also normally in 8s or 6.
Avoid the number 4.
Yeah, 4 sounds like death in Chinese, while 8 sounds like making a fortune, and 6 sounds like having a smooth year ahead.
Yeah, so there's a lot of little things about red packet. Moving on from red packet, so okay, not moving completely on, but moving on
from physical red packets.
physical red packets and online transactions. There's this specific thing. It's actually now formed its own subculture in China, I will argue, called WeChat red packet. Like we mentioned, WeChat is the daddy of all social medias in China. Everybody has WeChat. If you know anybody from China, they will ask you, do you have WeChat?
Yeah.
That's the social media and like messaging
People
app
don't really
we
use
prefer.
SMS anymore.
Yeah, because it's free. You can make calls on WeChat. It's like FaceTime and like all of it on WeChat.
Actually, there was this funny video recently, which is like people keep having connection problems while calling each other on WeChat, and then the end of the video is, wait, we could just call each other using normal telephone calls. Well, nobody thinks about that anymore.
Yeah, because it's free. Because if you use WeChat, you don't need to pay like the texting and calling fees.
So back to 微信抢红包.
Yeah, so essentially on WeChat groups there's this function. So if you're having a one-on-one conversation, you can send someone an angbao. But if you are in a group chat, you can actually send into the group chat a angbao of a specific amount, and then people in the group can fight for it essentially, and they will get a randomized amount. So let's say I put in $100 into the group of 5 people. Not everybody will get $20. Some people will get $1. Some people will get $50, and it really it is completely up to luck and randomized. And also, if there are a lot of people in the group, let's say there's 20 people, if you're slow, you're not going to get it. So that's why hence the fighting aspect. It's not like, oh, there's 20 slots allocated, there's 20 portions allocated. No, it's completely random how many portions there are and exactly how much is in each portion. So when did it start? I can't remember. It started a couple years.
At least 5 years ago.
At least 5 years ago, and it's gotten incredibly popular. People in China do not just use this function during Chinese New Year. They use it in the most random situations when they just want to give out money. So let's say you're in a company and the company has a WeChat group. You got a promotion, or like it's your birthday, or there's some celebration event that calls for it. You give out some money, and it's just a very common thing to do now that people will fight with each other for the red packet in the WeChat app. It's just very funny.
Okay, I just did a quick googling. 2014.
Oh god.
Oh my god.
That's 8 years ago.
I remember there was 1 year, it might be 2014, the Chun one, which is the CCTV Spring Gala. It actually kept talking about 抢红包. Because the MCs were like, if you're still busy fighting over red packets, make sure you look out for our next show.
Like they kept making references to it.
Yeah.
I don't actually have a lot of experience 抢红包 because again, in order for you to actually get the money, you need a WeChat Pay account, which actually, in order to prevent money laundering, the Chinese government has cracked down very significantly on foreigners having Chinese bank accounts. So there's a lot of hoops and hurdles you have to cross, as well as documentation and a lot of paperwork essentially for you to have WeChat Pay. And it's just so frustrating.
Actually, right, every time my family group send hongbao, nobody really fights for it. It's like a courtesy thing, like let the seniors take first. But the thing is, sometimes they will send and then be like, okay, ask my mom, for example. Okay, you take it. Then my mom will be like, oh, I don't have. So she will just forward the hongbao to someone else for them to take it. Okay, another thing that's quite cool is 集五福, which is by 支付宝. I guess 支付宝 is
Alipay.
It's the all-encompassing pay everything via 支付宝.
It's gotten to the point where
wet market also 支付宝.
So 支付宝 is essentially like PayLah or FavePay in Singapore, or Apple Pay. That would be the easiest, but instead it's owned by Alibaba, which is the owner of Taobao. So everybody, of course, you can pay for Alibaba transactions with 支付宝, but you can also scan the QR code for to pay with Alipay at any stores that offer Alipay, and it's so pervasive in China that Wu Fan mentioned, you go to a wet market or a traditional market and they will have it. You go to the side of the road and you get street food and they will have it. It's gotten to the point, the joke is that people who beg on the streets in China, they will say, can you spare me some change? And then people say, oh, I don't have change. And they say, oh, I have Alipay.
Oh
as in, I don't know how true that is, but that is the ongoing joke at the point.
I have seen people begging along the streets with QR codes in front of them.
Oh god.
Wow.
Okay. China is a incredibly cashless society. It's gotten to the point where I have been in China and I have tried to buy things and they do not accept cash. And I do not have Alipay and I can't eat whatever I want to eat or buy whatever I want to buy.
That's very sad.
Okay.
I guess you can also go to the street and ask them to scan QR
It's so sad. I have to stick with my mom because she's the one with Alipay and I can't like
Oh my god, hell.
walk in a different direction from her. But anyway, so as you mentioned, so Alipay is the one that started 集五福 or translated into English is collect 5 fortunes.
Okay, the word fu is pasted everywhere in China. So 集五福 is an activity that started in 2016 where you just go around taking photos of all the foods you can find in real life. And then the app will automatically assign it to 5 kinds of 福. 爱国富强和谐友善and 敬业. And these are
Patriotism, rich and strong, harmonious,
yes.
friendly, and work hard. Like
I guess, yeah.
hardworking in terms of your career.
These are like social values, moral values that China is trying to promote throughout the country lah. You're randomly assigned these different kinds of food after you take photos of food, and then you redeem money and other kinds of stuff.
Lucky draws and
Yeah,
stuff.
that will help you with your Alibaba shopping spree in the future.
Apparently that they might actually clear your shopping cart.
Yeah, in 2019, there's a 花花卡. The word 花 actually comes from 花钱, which means to spend money. And then if you actually get that, you actually manage to redeem that card, they will clear your card.
It's just okay, I think there's 2 aspects to it. First of all, there is the very nationalistic government aspect in which they're trying to push certain morals onto people. The other aspect is a very capitalist aspect, which is
Consumerism
and also increasing engagement.
Yeah.
Because the more time you spend on trying to gather these pictures, the more time we essentially spend on the Alibaba app and the Alipay app as well.
Yeah.
So it is all like, I would say it's actually very clever because it is a very good marketing tactic to get people to, you know, use this much more in their life. Like let's say I did not have Alipay, I had WeChat Pay or other, I just use cash. I now have an incentive to do something that is seemingly harmless because I'm just going around taking photos of things that I will otherwise already see in my day-to-day life, and I stand a chance to win lucky draws and all these money and clearing my shopping carts. So it is actually very clever marketing wise. But yeah, it's just so funny that it is now so pervasive that it has become a cultural phenomenon.
Yeah, for sure. And I saw someone write their own reflections on this 集五福 experience, and they said this made me realize that fu can be written in so many ways.
Yeah, that's true.
Throughout Chinese history, calligraphy and words are just written differently across the dynasties and stuff like that. So some people actually don't know how to read fu in a different type form.
It's like, imagine you going around taking photos of different Christmas trees.
Wait,
Yeah.
wait, what?
Like that, as in, it is true, like, as in, generally, the idea is the same.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, then moving on to a phenomenon that is humongous in China in terms of volume and just chaos. It's called 春运.
Which translates to...
Spring Festival Transportation of People. I guess 春节运输. Okay, so analogy would be...
Between Singapore and Malaysia.
Yes, there's an entire causeway that will jam up between JB and Singapore because Malaysian Singaporeans or Singaporean Malaysians, they will go back to Malaysia and back.
Family.
Yeah. We don't fly back to China, but within China itself, people are just trying to get everywhere during the 春节 season. Normally, 春运 refers to the transportation of people, but it could also be transportation of goods and logistics because people taobao like crazy over 春节 period.
This is a phenomenon that's very unique to China, even though it is seen to a smaller extent elsewhere. So the same idea exists all over the world in terms of traveling back to your family during the festivals and holidays. So like Christmas, people might go back to their hometown and spend time with their family.
Yeah.
But it is particularly chaotic and on an incredibly large and like unprecedented scale in China because of, I guess, 2 contributing reasons. First being that there is a very big difference between the rural parts of China and the urban parts of China.
Yeah.
And majority of youth from the rural areas actually work and spend most of their time in urban areas. Like they congregate there for livelihood and, you know, just spending time.
And a specific group called 北上广深, Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou, Shenzhen. So people who float around there, like
they call piao. So essentially they are born in the rural areas, their extended families are in the rural areas, but they work and they spend their lives in the urban areas to have better job opportunities, and sometimes they try to assimilate into the urban areas and get the urban passports. It's a whole thing. But essentially, because their families are still in the rural areas, this brings me to my second point. There is a very strong sense of going back home during Chinese New Year.
Yes.
So yeah, you also see this for like Christmas and Thanksgiving in Western countries, but it's extremely strong in China, partly due to like the propaganda that always say 回家常回家看看.
It makes me cry all the time. All the
But
advertisements.
essentially, like, there's a very strong, like, in Asian culture, you usually live with your parents for your entire life, or like even well into adulthood, unless you get married. Then some people might choose to move out, some people don't. So in China, this is a very strong phenomenon of if you don't live regularly with your parents, you must visit them during Chinese New Year, and hence the long trek between where you work and live to where your family is. So usually from urban areas to rural areas before Chinese New Year, and vice versa after Chinese New Year. Hence the entire it's almost like the entire country is on the move during this 14 days. Yeah,
very true. Yeah, and for the on the move aspect, it's mainly grounded in the railway system, which is actually getting more and more complex and getting faster and faster in China. It's called 高铁.
Speed railway. Yeah.
Yeah. And for this year, despite all the COVID and lockdowns, it's projected that there will be 2 billion passengers throughout the entire Spring Festival season. And for context, the world population is about 8 billion. So that's 1/4 of the world's population.
How many people are there in China? Isn't it 1.17 billion?
No, because some people multiple
trips.
Yeah. So it's quite insane, yeah. And then I have a bit of a graph obsession. So I went to CCTV News, right? And then in 2002, the railway 春运 was actually like 100 million. Now it's 2 billion.
A lot of people don't actually take the plane to go back to their hometowns because usually the planes are not the most accessible in terms of if you live in a really truly rural area, and also like income considerations, like it's just much more expensive.
Also luggage, because some people when they go back they really bring a shit ton of stuff.
Oh my god.
Like people carry gigantic greenish
tarps, like okay,
the thing is taller than you, that kind of feeling.
Like the baggage that they carry are genuinely
emotional
humongous.
and physical.
Yeah, so because they will bring kind of goodies for their family as well, and then when they come back they also bring back stuff.
Especially because going back to the rural areas from the city, there's a lot of stuff that the people in the rural areas might not have seen before, so they want to bring everything over for their families.
Yeah, so that is another very important aspect of Chinese New Year in China. So moving on to Chinese New Year decor.
Yeah! Do you do anything this year?
It's on my door. You didn't see it. Yeah, there's a little rabbit, yeah.
Wait.
What?
Your neighbor downstairs also had the same decor.
Oh dear god. Okay, so like a little bit of context for everyone. We record in my house, and this lady knocked on the wrong door. Like she alighted at the wrong level, and she was like, "Can you come and fetch? Like, can you open the door?" And I opened my door, and I was like, "Where are you?" And she was like, "Oh god, I'm on the 32nd floor instead of the correct floor." And
I was knocking.
She was knocking so loudly for so long. Dear God, I don't know the trauma that she has imposed on my neighbor, but anyway.
But yeah, back to the more auspicious content
of Chinese New Year decor.
Yeah, so people would tend to paste 春联, which are Spring Festival related couplets. 2 vertical, symmetrical lines downwards, and then the words are written downwards also, and you read the right one first, then the left one. And there's a concept called 对仗, which means if your first comes in the form of, let's say, 2 words that mean one thing, 2 words that mean one thing, then 3 words that mean something, then your next will also come in the form of 2, 2, 3.
Yeah,
so
essentially they should be symmetrical, and they should also kind of reflect each other in meaning.
Yeah.
So if you mention the word up in the first sentence, you should mention the word down in the second sentence.
Something like that.
And then if you mention like ocean, you should mention mountain. That kind of like it's kind of symmetrical and reflecting on each other, kind of a vibe.
Honestly, it's a very cultured thing to do.
It's an art form that we have not mastered, and most people they don't bother coming out with the words themselves or writing it themselves. They just go to the market and buy some.
Yeah, for sure. Or like actually this year, okay, in the past my mom's friend who actually does calligraphy, he will write his own original couplets. But this year we didn't go to him to 求字. 求字 means to beg for words. It sounds very sad, but it's just like a very respectful way of saying asking someone for spring couplets lah. So this year I went to buy them from online, and the words are like Comic Sans in Chinese. But I tried to find like the couplets that actually mean something. I don't like the like get money lah, get rich, that kind of like lame stuff.
There's also between the 2 couplets, there's a horizontal
shorter
line that is meant to go in the center. So imagine like a door. Like
yeah, basically a door.
Yeah, it's also supposed to go on your door.
Yeah.
So like go next. So the vertical couplets should go by the side of your door, and the horizontal line should go above your door. So it's kind of like surrounding your door. And then in the center on your door, you should have a fu, which is like the word for fortune, like upside down.
Okay, wait, that's a contentious point. So do you put it upside down or right side up?
If I had the choice, if it was just the word fu, if it was just one word, I would put it upside down.
Okay. And then if it's not,
because if you have other words on it, then you cannot put it upside down because you cannot read the other words.
I see what you mean.
Yeah.
Okay. So I did some research on this, right? And it turns out that people have been arguing that actually putting it upside down is wrong. Okay, let's just explain why people put it upside down.
As we mentioned before, Chinese as a language is very much about puns.
Yes.
And like homonyms. So for the word for upside down in Chinese also means, it sounds exactly the same as the word for arrive.
Dao.
Yeah, so when you put the word fortune upside down, you can read it out loud as fortune has arrived.
福到了.
Yeah. So that's why people like to put it upside down to kind of welcome fortune and in their new year. So that's what we have all been told.
Yeah, honestly, I thought about it my whole life also. Until one year, my dad who likes to introduce contentious arguments. He was like, actually, so I went to do some research, and there are actually two arguments against it. So apparently people in the past, right, they only pasted the fu upside down on places like the rubbish bin, the waste paper baskets and stuff like that, so that when they clear it, then they throw all the bad stuff out. Then after they're done clearing that bin, right, they will put it upside down, and then the fu will be right side up. So that is actually what it's supposed to be for. But if you paste it on your door, you're obviously not going to throw your door away. So it doesn't work that way apparently. And another reason is because the word fu, it's a combination of a lot of other smaller characters, and the smaller characters mean stuff like praying to a god, feeding yourself, agriculture and all that stuff. And then flipping it over actually, because the meaning is supposed to follow a certain order. But putting it upside down does not follow an order anymore. But honestly, regardless...
Who gives a shit?
Regardless, as long as you don't put it like 90 degrees left or right.
Yeah.
that is just weird and chaotic. Don't do that.
Wait, have you seen people who done that?
I mean, yes. Okay, I've seen someone who did like, they made a flower out of food, so it's upside, right side up, then 90 degrees left.
Oh.
But
I mean, that's fine. I guess.
Like, yeah.
There's not a lot of Chinese New Year decorations. It's just putting a lot of red everywhere and like.
I think there's not a lot of Chinese New Year decorations because maybe our families don't do it. But like, I went out to buy CNY deco outside, right? They always have like this pineapple looking thing.
Oh, they have pineapples everywhere. So like, pineapple is a very strong motif because as we mentioned, I'm not sure if you mentioned, the one, I think the Cantonese way of saying pineapple is onglai, which means literally wang lai, which again it means robustness, luck, and money and wealth has arrived. Yeah, so that's why people are like, oh, this sounds like a very good fruit to, and very auspicious fruit.
Oh, there are also those squishy, spongy mandarin orange looking things.
Oh, yes.
I used to love squeezing them.
It's made of plastic, right?
I have not. It's like...
Again, mandarin oranges are very auspicious. So they basically, the core is very much red color, auspicious fruits, and a lot of text. 财神爷 also, they paste the god of fortune. Yeah, but basically that. And also, normally people will paste stuff or like buy soft toys that's related to the zodiac animal. Yeah, and especially for this year, right, rabbit firstly looks very cute, and secondly, the word 2 sounds like the number 2, so there were a lot of puns.
Yeah, I think the Singapore Chinese Cultural Centre was holding an exhibition called Happy Together. But okay, I went there and it's very cute. They have like human-sized rabbits and they're playing mahjong and eating steamboat.
No comments.
It's so cute. It's damn cute. Okay, yeah.
Moving on to another aspect of Chinese New Year, especially the decor, I guess.
Also text-based.
Text-based. Hui Chun, which means... What is hui?
Okay, hui is like hui bi, hui mo, which means like...
It's like the motion of sweeping.
Yeah.
Like, not
while
sweeping.
While you're writing...
but like...
Your arms, your hands sweeping to write calligraphy. So hui chun is a very poetic way of saying writing...
Calligraphy.
Yes, for Spring Festival. Yeah.
Which is something that our secondary school
used to have.
Yeah.
And it was really a big thing. I remember everybody had their own calligraphy sets. And then we would line the entire quadrangle with newspaper. And they even have a competition.
So dumb.
Some of us cannot write.
The thing, okay, I'm not saying the activity itself was dumb. I'm saying like we were so dumb because we
are so dumb.
We are so dumb because we can't write calligraphy.
Yeah.
So it's just a massive. And the thing is, oh dear goodness, do you remember our uniform was completely white? We had white shoes, white socks, white blouse, white skirt. Everything was white.
Yeah.
And the calligraphy ink is genuine, like deep dark black.
Yeah.
And if okay.
Honestly, everybody's gonna every year.
Every year. And the thing is, you wouldn't be writing on tables. We are writing, like we mentioned, in a quadrangle, which is on the ground.
So you're like just kneeling on the ground, writing.
Along with like 400 other people. So you're completely surrounded by people and ink and pens.
Yeah.
And it's just a bad idea. Like if you bump into someone, the ink goes flying everywhere.
I think the concept would have been all these girls should be ladylike enough not to create any disaster.
That's not.
But okay. By the end of my secondary school life, I had a dedicated uniform just for Hui Chen. And it's really funny because some people really have like a massive splotch on their uniform, right? And then even after washing it, it still becomes like a dark purplish grey.
Yeah.
Yeah, so when people walk around in that, you know what happened. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so funny. Like most of the students don't know how to write calligraphy well.
And actually most of the time we just end up drawing stuff.
Yeah, correct. We don't write anything. We just
like
draw.
年年有 fish, flower 开富贵.
Yeah, anyway, it was fun. It's good memories, but like don't recommend doing it in all white uniform.
Okay, another thing our school had, but the rest of Singapore also has, is 舞龙舞狮, which is like lion dance or like dragon dance. But I think we're going to talk about lion dance more because it's more common.
Yeah.
Okay, so for lion dance, what happens if you want to talk about it?
Lion dance is essentially, I think you've seen it in popular media, and also like if you're in Singapore, you will see it on the streets. Where there are two people and they are controlling the lion costume. It's like it's primarily a lion head with a cape attached to it.
Very fluffy and shiny.
Yeah, and like ginormous eyes.
Oh, that can blink. It's super cute.
Yeah, and they have a mouth that opens. Yeah. So think of it like a mix between cheerleading. Yeah, it's essentially cheerleading.
Yeah.
Because the person, so that it's usually lion dance is mostly done by two people. So the person at the back is not controlling the head. The person at the back is primarily supporting the person in the front.
Yeah.
So the person in the front is like controlling the head, maneuvering the mechanisms to make the lion's eyes blink, as well as like moving the mouth. So because there's a lot of different things they can do, but one of the more advanced steps is definitely for the person in front to stand on the thighs of the person behind, so that it looks like the lion is kind of standing up straight. And then of course there are actual lion dance competitions where they have to actually jump from zhuang to zhuang. So zhuang is like pillars with platforms on top, and they are literally like jumping from pillar to pillar, and they're
like 1 meter plus.
Yeah, and they're dancing on the pillar platform, and it's like don't think of it like a catwalk platform. I'm talking like circular discs the size of your laptop.
Lion dance is cheerleading plus kung fu in a very festive cosplay suit.
Yes, correct. So it's very entertaining to watch, and it's very intricate in terms of coordination between the two people, and it's kind of dangerous, honestly speaking, if you see the more advanced things that they do, because it's genuinely like very scary. What is it called when you have a 武士团? Okay.
What the?
So
Lion dance troupe.
Lion dance troops, what they do is that they will sit in the back of a truck, like a small lorry, and then they will play the drums and gongs the entire time that they start driving. So you will hear them passing by your neighborhood, and you can definitely hear like that's the tong tong qiang music, and then you're like, that's the lion dancers. So they'll travel from place to place, so they can either be commissioned by a particular group. So let's say for shopping malls, they can commission a particular lion dance troupe to perform for them. Or they can go kind of like busking, so they go in front of each individual shop, and this is kind of contentious. So my relatives don't really like this. Because essentially what they do is that they keep dancing in front of your store until the store owners give them money.
Oh.
Yeah. So I will not move away from... So what they do is they literally just dance in front of your store until you give them red packets.
Damn.
Yeah, and sometimes... I'm not sure if this is true for all dance troupes. Sometimes certain dance troupes will continue dancing if they're not satisfied with the red packet amount.
Oof.
Yeah, so
wow.
a lot of store owners have to be prepared for that in advance during Chinese New Year.
Okay.
And then but yeah, so I mean it's understandable to a certain extent because they don't really, if you're a line dance troupe performer, particularly if you're a professional one, you put in all this effort, but you don't actually have a lot of...
It's like seasonal unemployment.
Yeah, seasonal unemployment. You don't have a lot of gigs unless it's Chinese New Year. So you kind of have to make sure that you earn enough money at the start of the year to make up for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot of technical terms that is involved in lion dancing. Do you want to explain?
Okay, so the first thing about lion dance is there's something called 醒狮, which literally means awakening the lion. So I remember in our school also had this person just wearing like a 大头娃娃 head. Like,
yeah, it's like a big-headed kid.
Yeah.
So the idea is that rotundness, like especially amongst children, it's a sign of
eating very well.
Of eating very well, of being rich, of good luck, fortune.
Yeah. There will be this one person who just acts as a very cheeky little kid to wake up the lions. And then the lions will start blinking and everything. Then the dong 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 qiang. Yeah. And then the climax of the show is called 采青. And 青 comes from the word 青菜, which is usually a whole ass cabbage or lettuce that gets destroyed in the performance, which I feel very sad about because I like vegetables. But the 生菜 actually sounds like 生财, which means to have more and more fortune. Yeah, so for the climax of the show, the lion will capture the cabbage or the lettuce after going through all the high elements and jumping on each other and stuff like that.
Usually the cabbage is placed in a very high place, and then it's almost like putting it on a string and dangling from a high position, and then they will go and get it. Like by go and get it, I will mean that the person with the head will maneuver the mouth to open and then kind of grab, using the mouth, opened mouth, grab the lettuce and then like throw it on the ground, and then
they will kind of shred it while it's inside to pretend that the lion is eating it.
Yeah.
If you think about it, a carnivore eating lettuce makes no sense. but yeah.
And then they sometimes might have like little scrolls that they capture, and then they will open the scroll.
Oh, open it in the mouth.
So it looks like they are holding onto the scroll with their mouth, and like the scroll, they will unfurl the scroll, and usually it will say some auspicious things.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Also, a lion dance troupe has not just one lion. Sometimes it has multiple lions fighting over the same thing.
Another fun aspect about our school is that our school had a lion dance troupe. My friend was in the lion dance troupe.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay, wait. I discuss later who it is.
But it was a very interesting CCA because I think it's again a reflection of how Chinese our school is, secondary school is. But I think it was also the only all-female line dance troupe.
That's what we like to
Singapore.
say on the newspaper.
Because like line dance, like we mentioned, is very physical.
Strenuous.
Yeah, so it was very incredible to have an all-female line dance troupe in our school because it's not easy. It's very difficult. Like people do not give them enough credit.
It's actually also very hot, and the person who's behind has to basically bend down 90 degrees all the time. Your hip is gonna die.
Yeah. It was very incredible to see. Okay, another aspect of Chinese New Year is 迎财神, which is welcoming the god of
fortune.
money.
Okay.
You keep saying fortune, but fortune can be interpreted as in good luck.
That's very
but
true.
This is specifically
really means money.
This is specifically money.
Okay.
I think it's absolutely hilarious that we have a god of money.
财神 literally holds an entire piece of gold.
Gold, yeah. We're not very subtle about it. That's what I'm trying to say. So, do you want to explain the processes of welcoming the god of money?
Okay. By the way, I don't have any personal experience with 迎财神 at all. So I had to research all of this. And I've seen this on TV lah. So Tianfu-gong is a very famous temple in Singapore. And people like to go there to bye for the 财神. And it happens on 初四, 初五, which is the 4th or the 5th day of Chinese New Year. And actually this is like a point that people can't agree over. But what happened was, I was watching Channel 8, the news on 初四, 初五. The news anchor was asking this scholar, so 财神, should we ing him on 初四 or 初五? And then the scholar was like, actually both. Because right, in the past, people ing 财神 on 初四 子时 And 子时 actually starts between 11 p.m. and it ends at 1 a.m. So it actually crosses both days. So both are correct. It's just like the fu. Both are correct lah. Yeah. So what people like to do is the very really like devout and really want to 发财 people. They will do something called 抢头香. So before the gates open, right, people will stand outside holding 香 and then they will rush in incense. Yeah. So 抢头香 means to snatch for the first incense. So
like to be the first person to put your incense in the incense pot.
Yes. So people actually like run in to smash it into the pot. But I think in Singapore it's a lot more civil because people in general are not very intense in what they do. Yeah, I've seen the Taiwan one.
Oh, Taiwan one is
oh my god, like people actually don't sleep and they just stand outside. And when they run, it's like a stampede. And like even the old aunties, uncles, they will run. And this is like one moment in the entire year, they are super athletic. It's quite crazy. Yeah.
There's a very materialistic obsession with money in Chinese culture, I must admit. But it's kind of funny, yeah.
Yeah.
We are very explicit about it, and we're not ashamed of it. Does that make sense?
I think because money is tied to hard work. It's the rewards that you earn.
No, I think it's just the money.
No, come on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Flowers. Flowers are also another part of like decor in terms of Chinese New Year. It's I'm not sure what the meaning is, but it's like
I think 花开富贵 ma, all these
oh
kind of things.
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
I mean one of them. Okay, 花开富贵 is an idiom that means when a flower blooms, then you will have like a lot
money,
of riches. Yes, that. Yeah, but I think it probably stemmed from like China being an agricultural society in the past. So like, you know, bountiful harvest, the flowers seeds,
bloom.
Everything. Yeah, and another thing is during Chinese New Year, it's usually winter, except when you're in Singapore and Southeast Asia. So flowers actually are a symbol of spring coming soon.
Yeah, it's Chinese New Year is also known in Chinese as Spring Festival.
Yeah.
So it's there are very heavy themes of like New Year, new start, bountiful harvest, all that kind of like a lot of if you listen to a lot of Chinese New Year songs, it's about you know, the going of winter and the welcoming of spring. So those are a lot of very important motifs as well. So the flowers blooming is also a sign of winter going and spring coming.
In the past, we used to make fake flowers from bottle cleaners. Like my kindergarten used to do that. My primary school also. So bottle cleaners in Singapore are like
the
bendable metal wires with fluffy things on top.
Yeah,
and
that's
they
colourful.
come in all sorts of colours, so we just bend them to make flowers. Well, it just like really, really odd, specific childhood memory that I had.
Do you want to explain the most important part of why we wanted to do this episode, which is the zodiac?
Okay, the context was previously I spaced about it in our episode. Then we were like, the episode was too long,
so we cut it.
Okay, but we just wanted to put it here because this year it's not just the rabbit year. The full name of the year is called 癸卯兔年, and it stood out to me because the word 癸 sounds like a ghost in Chinese. And then when I told my friends 癸卯兔年, they were all like shook because it sounds really weird and creepy. But actually it's not. So the word 癸 actually comes from a series of counting and measurements in Chinese. There's something called 十天干 and 十二地支. In general, what they do is they are used in stuff like for counting, measurements, and timing, and all sorts of this kind of units of time. Yeah, so 癸 is actually the last out of the 10 天干, which are 甲乙丙丁戊己庚辛壬癸. And then the 十二地支are 子丑寅卯辰巳午未申酉戌亥. Yeah, and then the rabbit is actually also matched onto Mao because rabbit is the third zodiac of the 12 zodiacs. TLDR, this year is 癸卯兔年 because every year you will +1 to both sets of units of measurement. So next year will be 甲辰龙年 because after 兔 it will be 龙, then after 卯 it will be 辰, then after 癸 it will be 甲. And I like it a lot because I use this to remember the lowest common multiple. So there are 10 天干 and 12 地支, so the lowest common multiple is 60, which is why when you're 60 years old, it's a very big celebration because it's called 60甲子年.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The words for the 12 teacher is also used as a timing in ancient China. So instead of course, ancient China, they don't have like 12 a.m., 12 p.m. So they were just, each of the 12 characters means a specific 2-hour window. So like we mentioned with 子时 is from 11 p.m. to 1 a.m. On top of that, Chinese New Year also has other aspects, which is the Spring Festival aspect. So there are 4 seasons. There's 十二节 and 24期 and 七十二候. So basically it's like in the multiples of 12. So the 12 months are mapped onto the 12 zodiac terms. But since spring is first, the first month is actually February. So we will explain that later. But because December is mapped onto 子, the first 地支, February is mapped onto 庚, right? Is this what 庚?
Oh,
yin. Oh, instead, so the third 地支. So 24期 is based on the position of the sun and when it is the best to do certain types of agricultural activities. So you'll also hear it as 24节气. So essentially, because China is such an agricultural society, this is how they mark the transition of time. So it is now time for sowing of seeds. It is now time for putting fertilizer, like watering or whatever they do. I'm sorry, I'm not very sure.
Bountiful harvest.
Bountiful harvest, yeah. And then 七十二候 is about every 5 days is one whole or one moment. And according to historical records, it's tied to animals or plants that will be at their peak. So it's a very poetic way to record scientific observations in nature. So a lot of the times the festivals are actually related to the time of the year that is in season. So 春节 or Chinese New Year is Spring Festival. 元宵节 or Lantern Festival is like the first full moon. And then 清明, 中秋 and 冬至. So there's winter solstice, summer solstice. So a lot of the traditional festivals have a specific position in terms of the timing in the specific season that they're in. Yeah. Do you want to do about the first day of Chinese New Year?
Yeah, okay, wait. Before that, I just want to mention that, you know, the 四季, 十二节, 24期, and 七十二候, if you look at the words just side by side, right, if they form 季节, 节气, and 气候, which is why I love the Chinese language. It's just, wow, the patterns and the structures and everything. Yeah, and also about the 七十二候, right, the ancient text that records this really also once again does the 对仗 system. So it'll be like 3 words, which means like, for example, the crickets are singing, then 4 words, the what flower is blooming, and it's just like I love patterns. But yeah, okay. So in our previous episode, right, we mentioned, okay, there's a little rhyme about 初一到二, 初二, but we didn't really know what the specific rhyme was. So actually I found out that actually there are quite a few rhymes, but the one that people talk about the most, I'll just read out everything, then maybe we just unpack it a little. Yeah, so it's 年初一贺新岁, 年初二回娘家, 年初三赤口日, 年初四接财神. Oh, 财神 sounds familiar. Okay, 年初五破五, 年初六送穷出门, 年初七庆人日, 年初八不回家, 年初九九黄蛋, 年初10打春去, 初11打十仗, 初12点新灯, 初13上灯日, 初14接灶神, 初15看花灯.
So 年初一 is the first day of Chinese New Year. You celebrate the new year. 岁 is like, you know, year/age.
Yeah.
And then 年初二回娘家 or go back to your marital home. So this is for women that are married.
Patriarchal system in the past. Yeah.
The specific term is called patrilineal. So what that means is that you kind of
stay with your husband's family after you get married.
For these married women, it is tradition for them to go back to their to their natal family. Yeah, maternal family during the second day of Chinese New Year. Basically, each day you're supposed to do a specific task. Some of them are like more religious than others, like 接财神 and 接灶神. 灶神 is the god of the
cooking stove.
Yes. Which is very
it's food related.
It's not just food related, it's actually it's a domestic god. So
yes.
Basically, if the idea is that if I'm not wrong, if your cooking stove is constantly like on, because people did not used to have gas stoves or electric stoves, what they would do is that they would use like wood, and they will actually have like actual burning of wood and fire in the stove. So the idea is that if you have constant fire in the stove, that means it's good luck or something like that. Like you're constantly cooking and eating, I think, if I'm not wrong. And that's why it's important to like worship the god of the cooking stove. And there's a lot of other domestic meanings as well. So 灶神 is historically a much more feminine, like not say feminine god, but like a god that is women would pray to because the domestic realm is much more the women's realm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a lot of other meanings as well.
Yeah, and also for 年初七人日, it's actually quite a big day also. So 人日 is actually
everybody's birthday, right?
Yeah, it's called 人人的生日. Yeah, and then to celebrate it, you eat stuff. Yeah, okay, for most of Chinese New Year, to celebrate a certain day, you eat certain stuff. Yeah, then for 人日, you should eat 7 kinds of vegetables that sound like auspicious things, basically. Yeah. And then, so what, did your family do like any of these
No, my
things?
family doesn't do any of these things.
Okay, what my family does is, right, especially my dad, he'll go online to Google the customary food to eat every day, but the results are quite different sometimes. So it's like see which search result matches your fridge kind of thing. Yeah, so 初一 we definitely eat 饺子, which are dumplings, and then we ended up eating 饺子 on 初三 and 初五 also, cause what happened was my dad bought 6 packs. Then my mom, without checking the fridge, also bought 6 packs.
Holy, that's 12 packs of dumplings.
I mean, we don't mind now. We love eating dumplings. Yeah, Beijing.
Oh god.
But yeah, and then we also eat 春饼, which is like
What's 春饼?
Oh, you don't know. 春饼 is a very
Is it spring roll?
thing. No, 春饼, you know Beijing 烤鸭, sometimes they wrap it in this very very thin sheet of like,
it's like almost like rice paper. Like it's
but it's noodle paper. It's like flour paper. Flour paper.
It's like a very small tortilla. And a very small and thin tortilla. Yeah.
It's not small, quite big. Like 1 palm, 2.
Okay, but it depends on where you go, I guess. The one I go to is always like palm size.
Interesting. Yeah, okay, but my dad makes them from scratch, which I'm very
Damn.
amazed by. Yeah. So we ate 春饼, but then he was googling, and then he realized that we need to eat it on 初八, but he cooked it on 初九, so he went to find some search result that justified eating on 初九.
Oh my god, that's quite funny.
Yeah. To sum up the Chinese New Year sharing, right? We just wanted to address a small controversy. Okay, it's not small. I think it might be quite big.
It's not a controversy. It's just like
people have different ways of addressing different cultural things.
I think it's a misconception as well as like a gap in knowledge that is very important and manifested in language.
Yeah.
So the most common term that we keep using is Chinese New Year. The reason why we use the word Chinese New Year is because we are specifically talking about China in this context and Singapore.
And we are Chinese.
Hence we celebrate Chinese New Year.
Yeah.
However, the term for the actual festival can vary depending on where you come from and who you are and how you celebrate it. Some people call it Lunar New Year. So what's the difference?
Okay, so the difference is, of course, for Chinese people, we call it Chinese New Year. Lunar New Year, I would say, it's more like a global monoculture way of addressing Chinese New Year because it follows the lunar calendar. Yeah.
So basically, like, the reason why it's Chinese New Year and not like Western New Year is because the Chinese calendar is the lunar calendar.
Yeah.
So I'm quite sure Chinese people invented the lunar calendar, right?
Exactly.
So basically, in all of history, before the current modern day Western calendar is introduced and, popularized, the Chinese people in ancient China followed the lunar calendar. The reason why it's called, so in Mandarin, we call it Yingli and Yangli. So Yangli is the sun, like they literally translate it to like the moon calendar and the sun calendar. So we call the normal Western calendar the sun calendar because you calculate each day according to the rise and the fall of the sun. Yeah. But the lunar calendar calculates each day based on the moon. So it actually 1 month is 28 to 1 month is
really just depends
1 month
on
is
the
38 to 30 days depending on the cycle of the moon.
Yeah.
So every single 15th, it is the time when the moon is at its fullest, and the first or the 30th, around like the start and end of the month, is when the moon is at its like thinnest, waxing or waning.
Yeah.
So hence there are also 12 months, but it's very different. So because
it's not regularly shaped.
Yeah,
basically.
because of that, it's not it doesn't exactly tally up with the Western calendar.
Yeah.
If you look at the lunar calendar and you map it according to agricultural practices as well as fishing practices, because another big reason why people use lunar calendar is because when you go fishing, you need to know the tides. So
which
follows the moon. Yeah. So hence and then you look at the natural seasons, it follows the lunar calendar much more closely than it does the Western calendar, because the Western calendar just doesn't make sense.
Which is also why the lunar calendar is called Nongli, which is like agricultural.
Yeah, so there's many. So
So my take on this, right, is, for example, nasi padang. Okay, nasi padang is like, it's kind of like a Malay version of cai fan, which is rice with a lot of dishes beside it.
Yeah.
And actually it's a rice banquet that came from the city of Padang in West Sumatra. We call it nasi padang, but if you look at all the nasi padang in Singapore and Malaysia and all of Southeast Asia, right, the stall sells a lot of different kinds of sides, but we still call it nasi padang. We don't call it like nasi Singapura or something like that. This is how I feel about Chinese New Year. Yeah, but that being said, right, because of the evolution of culture, the other countries that celebrate Chinese New Year call it Lunar New Year or other different names based on their language nowadays. Yeah. So there are a few notable countries such as Korea, Japan, and Vietnam who celebrate Lunar New Year but quite differently from China. We won't go into too much detail because I'm sure there are also regional differences within each country. But for Korea, actually it's called Solal. But the reason why we are bringing up this topic, right, is because recently in the K-pop world, there's been a lot of turmoil. Because some of the K-pop stars, they'll be like, oh, happy Chinese New Year to my fans, and then they get cancelled. And then some K-pop stars are like, happy Lunar New Year, and then they get cancelled also. And a notable example is a New Jeans, which is a new K-pop group that debuted. Two members, Danielle and Honey, they are both actually from Australia, but they address this festival with two very different terms. And okay, my take on this is maybe it's because Honey is Vietnamese, so she calls it Lunar New Year. And I feel like the netizens, right, they're also a bit overly mad about this, like especially the Chinese netizens. They really, what they say is like, how can you steal our festival and stuff like that?
Chinese, okay, there's always going to be like...
But there's some animosity between Chinese and Korea netizens when it comes to cultural things. Because Korea...
we will get to that. But yeah, China and Korea has... listen, China and all its neighboring countries have a very complicated history and relationship.
But I mean, it's very interesting because in the past, the other countries around China kind of like willingly or unwillingly imported or borrowed the culture and made it their own. And now they're trying to stake claims on it, which I think, to me, is not very necessary. You should just appreciate how things have varied. But some things like calling Li-Bai Korean is a bit weird lah.
No, I think a lot of it is just like the media trying to find headlines, because a lot of the times people are not as extreme and unreasonable as you think they are, but because the media needs sensationalized headlines and also like misinformation, it's a lot easier to get clicks on something like China claims kimchi to be its own rather than a headline that says Chinese netizens or Chinese officials has registered fermented vegetables as its own, even though it has the same even though it has the same name. Okay, in Chinese people call kimchi pao cai, but pao cai literally just means fermented vegetables.
Pao cai is a very large category that can mean a lot of things.
When the news came out that China registered Sichuan pao cai in the UNESCO as part of its UNESCO non-material heritage, the Korean netizens went wow, because they're like, oh, this kimchi is ours, but it's not kimchi, it's just that it shares the same name. Exactly. It's like saying
this is a loss in translation
issue. Lost in translation issue that was kind of aggravated by the misinformation as well as sensationalization
and also like
of the media
and international relations
sometimes. And also horrible international relations and just people profiting off other people's anger, which is how the modern internet works altogether.
We'll get to that also in our later episodes.
Yeah, but it's just that like I think I appreciate people saying like Lunar New Year, but I think people get very confused about the difference between the two. It's fine to say Happy Chinese New Year if you're talking to Chinese people. It's also fine to say Happy Lunar New Year if you're talking to people that are outside of China but still celebrate the festival. But I do not think that it's that big of a deal if someone, especially someone who does not celebrate this festival or knows the intricacies of the regional differences very well, misuses or confuses the two. You can just be nice and say that, oh, this is what I'm personally celebrating. Or if you have friends that are from the region, you all want to celebrate, you all can all collectively call it Lunar New Year.
Or y'all can just say Happy New Year. Happy New Year! With that. Take out the adjective. Happy Year! Have a day! Have a day!
How about just happy?
Happy.
What a great day.
Yeah. Exactly. Okay. Yeah. So we covered Korea. So let's look at China's other neighbors. So in Japan, it's actually quite an interesting situation. So Japan actually has westernized and modernized a lot of aspects of the country, and one of them is they still celebrate Lunar New Year, but in 1873 they decided to follow the Gregorian calendar. Yeah. So now Lunar New Year is 1st Jan. But the name for Lunar New Year in Japan is Shogatsu, which literally means first month of the year. But as you know, the first month of the year in lunar calendar is like February, March-ish. And then moving on to Vietnam, which doesn't seem to have as big of an issue fighting over the Lunar New Year name. Yeah. It's actually less associated with bringing in the spring because only the northern mountainous parts of Vietnam are actually cold during the winter. Yeah, and one thing about Vietnam that I thought was very cool is actually this year is the year of the cat, not the year of the rabbit. Because we mentioned just now, the word that corresponds to rabbit in Mandarin is Mao, which sounds like Mao in Vietnamese.
There are certain iterations of the Chinese zodiac where certain animals are swapped out for other animals.
Yeah. I think in Japan, the Chinese pig is replaced by the Japanese wild boar. Something like that. Like, it's related to like what your country has more of and stuff like that.
Yeah. So finally moving on to what we started the episode with, which was 元宵节 or Lantern Festival. So 元宵节 is not as widely celebrated as Chinese New Year, even though it's the last day of Chinese New Year. And actually, historically, it was a very big deal. So the reason why it was a very big deal is because, first of all, it's like on the first full moon. So a lot of the activities are actually surrounding the full moon. So one of the activities is like literally go out and, you know, view the moon viewing. But it's also called Lantern Festival because a lot of it revolves around lanterns. So it's kind of interesting. So basically, if you think about it, how do you celebrate a festival? If it's in the daytime, then you do a certain set of things. You know, if it's at the night time, then you have no natural light. You have no electronic lights. You need lanterns. So that's why Mid-Autumn Festival also have lanterns because it's also happening at night about the full moon.
It's also butchered and translated as Lantern Festival for some people.
Yes, correct. So you will see certain overlaps of like activities, but essentially it's done because it's at night. So you will see people having lanterns, guessing lantern riddles, and another big part of 元宵节 is called eating 元宵 or eating rice dumpling. Is it rice dumpling? Listen, there's so many different. What is it called? Like round rice dumplings.
Glutinous rice dumplings?
Glutinous rice balls. Glutinous rice balls.
Yes.
Yeah, so and spend time with the family, you know, that kind of stuff. So I think the reason why Lantern Festival was such a big deal in ancient China is because it is one of the few nights of the year where Chinese citizens, like ancient Chinese citizens, are allowed to roam on the streets past sunset. So in a lot of dynasties, there was...
If you watch a period drama film...
Yes, there were curfews. Yeah. So to prevent crime, because apparently if you don't go out at night, there's no crime.
This sounds like victim blaming.
No. As in, if you do not let people go out at night, then
people are not allowed to do shady stuff at night.
The only people on the streets would be criminals. So they will have patrols and guards. And
and they had like all the specific instruments.
Yeah. So anyway, flawed logic aside, essentially to control crime rates and, you know, facilitate safety, ancient Chinese dynasties often had curfews. So people were not allowed to go outside their houses past, let's say, 8 p.m. or after the sundown, depending on the season. So a lot of the time, there's no nightlife. Your life is extremely boring because during the day, you're working, you're doing your chores, and then at night, you just can't do anything about it. And Lantern Festival, as well as Mid-Autumn Festival, as well as Qixi, are a few of the nights in the year where the government allows people to go out onto the streets at night for the entire night. And therefore, there's a lot of these like lantern and moon viewing, buying of lantern, sharing of lantern, guessing of riddles, eating, and just all out party nightlife kind of vibes. That's why people really enjoyed it more than, let's say, Chinese New Year, because it is the one night of the year that they can, you know, go out and have fun.
Yeah, which is why it's also called 闹元宵, which means to have
chaos.
A very I mean, I would say bustling, but yeah, chaotic is a good word to use here. Yeah. So, but nowadays, given how food-centric most celebrations are, and the fact that nightlife is like a general thing that people will
regardless of the time of the year.
So, there's the 元宵 or 汤圆 eating custom. Yes. So, according to China's northern versus southern rivalry, from the Jiangzhou region downwards to the south, it's called Tangyuan, but upwards towards Beijing and everything else, it's called Yuanxiao. And objectively, from a Beijing person's point of view,
Yuanxiao tastes like shit.
yeah, Yuanxiao is very bad. Even my dad says so, and he's a very proud Beijing person.
Okay, wait, do you genuinely call it Yuanxiao?
Yeah, but in my family, we just call it both ways. Because
Okay.
my mom is southern, so it's like a mix. Yeah, but the difference is, Tangyuan is properly wrapped up.
Yeah.
Yuanxiao is you put
Rolled.
it in your hand, then you just like anyhow.
No, okay. So basically, so how it's made for people who do not eat glutinous rice balls, you take filling. Okay, so let's just.
No, first we prepare the glutinous rice.
First you prepare the wrap.
Yeah.
Okay, so first you mix glutinous flour with water until you get a dough. And then you prepare the filling. Let's just say you've already had it prepared or you bought the pre-made one. Then you roll the filling into small balls. And then you take the glutinous dough and then you wrap the glutinous dough around the ball so that it's circular. The entire thing is spherical in shape. And then the center of it, so you is the filling. So when you cook it, the center kind of filling gets molten and like melts and it's sweet. Most of the time it's sweet.
And it's also very chewy. The outside is very chewy.
The outside is very
glutinous
chewy,
rice.
yeah. So that is how you make tangyuan. How you make yuanxiao, according to what I know and what I see on television. They take the filling, they make it into a small ball. They put it in a giant thing of usually a bowl or like a plate of glutinous flour. So and then they start shaking it violently.
Yes.
The glutinous flour coats the coats the filling and then they put it in some water to make sure. So they keep rolling it in glutinous flour for many layers until that it forms like a spherical.
If you think about it, right, it's actually faster because you don't have to. Okay, it's less mechanically strenuous on your fingers.
No,
because,
it's stupid.
No. I'm just saying that the process is faster and more efficient.
I disagree that it's faster.
But my mouth does not enjoy it as much.
It doesn't taste as good.
There are too many layers of the glutinous rice.
Yeah.
It's too whole, like too thick. Yeah.
Yeah, but also like according to according to some people, this is the same problem with like 粽子, which is rice dumpling.
Oh yes.
Some people in China think that it should be savory. Some people think it should be sweet.
Oh my god, yes.
And there are different flavors of the filling. There are some fillings that are meat. Have you had meat tangyuan?
I know Shanghai area has, but I've never eaten it.
It's good. It's very nice. Highly recommend. But it's a very peculiar experience, especially if you are used to eating it only sweet.
Yeah.
But it's genuinely good. So yeah, again, this is like a debate amongst like Chinese people, depending on where you're from, be it the north or the south, whether or not it's supposed to be savory or sweet. What is your favorite flavor?
Oh, black sesame.
I've never had red bean. I've only had black sesame and peanut.
Oh. Okay, but what is your favorite flavor? Is it meat?
No. My favorite flavor is salted egg yolk. No.
Oh.
Yeah, as in no, as in okay, I'm kidding. As in that's the novelty flavors. But like my favorite is actually not tangyuan. My favorite is 小圆子. What is that? Okay, so this is like very specific to like a particular part of southern China where I'm from. The Zhejiang area. You have something called 桂花小圆子.
Oh yeah.
So instead of having the a slightly bigger ball with filling in the middle, we just exclude the filling, like just exclude the filling and only have the glutinous balls. Okay, imagine bubble tea, but like that kind of size.
Okay.
And then you put it in a bowl of soup. That the soup is flavored with osmanthus flour.
Oh, do you use 桂花酿?
No, 桂花蜜. Like
so
you,
it's
like
not,
it's like
it's
糖
not
桂花.
alcoholic.
It's not alcohol. Okay, you can put 酒酿 inside.
Yeah. I remember you like 酒酿 a lot.
I like 酒酿 a lot. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, long story short, there's very many different variations of glutinous rice balls.
The flavor can be inside or outside in the soup.
Yeah. Then, do you know that people add like eggs, like poached eggs?
What?
Yeah.
Wait, on top of it?
in the soup.
But if it wait. Wait, so it's like 鸡蛋花, like egg drop soup.
No, there's one so some make it like some make it with the eggs like scrambled kind of in the soup, like egg drop soup. Some make it with a whole ass poached egg, like the.
I am confused.
And it's supposed to be sweet. Like the soup is sweet, everything is sweet, and they just put a whole ass poached egg inside.
And the egg is sweet.
Yeah, the egg is sweet. Like I've had it. Like it's a very comforting thing to have. Anyway. I think that concludes this episode.
Okay, so interesting culinary choices aside, yeah, we just hope that you have enjoyed Chinese New Year or a restful weekend if you don't celebrate the Chinese or Lunar New Year. And whatever kind of 汤圆 or 元宵 you enjoy, just enjoy the meaning of 团圆, which means reunion and being united with your family that it brings, or your friends if you don't prefer spending time with your family. But yeah, anything else to add?
I think that's all. We hope that you have learned something, even if it's just the fact that pineapple tarts are not Chinese. Yeah, we hope you have learned something from our 2 episodes on Chinese New Year.
We have an Instagram account, so you can follow us and listen out for the highlights for the upcoming episodes at china.through.sglasses. And you can also follow our highlights on our YouTube channel as well.
Do listen to us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. And that's all. See you. Bye.